Today I have a special guest with me. I'm joined today by former Husker, Mr. Ahman Green. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good, Adam, man. How you doing?
I'm good. I appreciate you joining me. And I know one of the questions the fans are going to want me to ask is this one, so I'm just going to lead right out the gate with it. All right. Nebraska's
Yeah,
bringing back the fullback. What do you think about that?
beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. I think fullback on the college level and the pro level. I mean, some colleges do still run it, but obviously we haven't in a while because we've been more RPO action and shotgun. So now with them going back to bringing the fullback, like I said, NFL teams, a few teams, Ravens come to mind, 49ers as well, and I think it's a lost tool. I mean, that person, that fullback, is a jack of many trades. That they're a run blocker. They pick up the blitz. They could catch the ball at the backfield. And when a player can do all those things and be a little heavier guy, he's like a extended branch of the offensive line. And obviously, as a running back myself, I enjoyed that since Little League. So I'm very happy to hear that.
Now, they're going to be using more tight ends as well. All right. I'm curious, to you, what's the biggest difference between a spread running attack, you mentioned RPO, but a spread running attack and having more tight ends and a fullback and some of those bigger bodies closer to the box, if you will? What's the difference in the run game between running out of the spread and running with more tight ends and a fullback?
I say running with more tight ends and a fullback, it brings the mentality of defining who the offense is, because the offense that has doubles tight end set, which is a 12 personnel, and they're running the ball downhill right at you. It's no sugarcoating it. There's no hiding it. And so what the Ravens, what the 49ers, or obviously us come in the fall, and what we did back during our playing days, when we had fullbacks, we were running the ball 90% of the time and play action off of that run set or that offensive formation set. So it brings a type of identity to that offense. It says, hey, we run first, and you got to stop us. And if you don't, you're going to have problems. And that problem is picking up first downs, in 3-4 plays, and the clock is getting drained all at the same time. So it's those type of characteristics of having double tight end set to bring a aggressive and a grindy mentality to the offense and to the team.
So let's take the scheme out of it for a minute. Okay, disregard the scheme. What's the biggest key to Nebraska just being able to run the ball better, period? How do they just run the ball better than they have the past few years?
It's a couple of things. It's one, from the player's point of view, you got to want to get the yardage. You got to have the one inside of you as a player. Offensive line, all the offensive linemen, tight ends, wide receivers, running back, quarterback, they got to know when we run this play or when we run these plays, we're going to pick up yardage. And if we run a few plays out of the play list, that this play is going to go to the house. This play is going to go to the end zone. So you got to have that mentality first as a player. And then from a coaching staff, obviously you got to make sure you give the players the right play to be successful, offensively blocking, going against certain defensive fronts. So make sure they make the call that if it's a 4-down lineman or if they're in a bare front, that they have the offensive linemen in the right positions, the wide receivers, the tight ends in the right positions to make their blocks and have a successful play. So those are the two elements right there where they can be successful and get that, what that mentality was and what that that characteristic was about Nebraska offenses.
Now, prior to Anthony Grant kind of becoming the main workhorse at running back for Nebraska's offense, at least the majority of last season, prior to that, more often than not in the previous seasons, it kind of felt like Nebraska had gone by more of a running back by committee approach. Now, they had a bunch of talented running backs, a bunch of guys who could do a lot of things, but my question is this: how hard is it to get into a rhythm of a game as a running back if you're only getting in sporadically? And is that frustrating at all to a running back, or is it nice to be fresh? Like, what's your approach to all that?
It depends. I know for me, I would rather get in my rhythm right away so I could get frustrated if I didn't. And it depends on like the years for the running back. We talking about a freshman, or we're talking about a sophomore that's been playing a lot, or a junior that's been playing a lot, and a senior also that has a lot of playing time. So if you look at a freshman, like my freshman year, I didn't mind it. When I got the carries, when I got them, because I was just getting in fresh, and I didn't have I wasn't the starter. I was a backup. I was rotating with Lawrence and Clinton and Damon and Jay Sims. And so whatever, if I could get 2 carries, 3 carries, all that was okay. But then for sophomores, juniors, and seniors, they want to get in their rhythm. They want to make sure, if I'm the lead horse, I'm the lead dog, then obviously you got to prove yourself in training camp. So make sure you are the lead dog, because then, at the end of the day, you don't even have to think about, oh man, I got to, split carries between, my teammates. You'll just know you'll get the lion's share of carries. And I think that's where some coaches, they make it easier on the player when they make the decision, all right, this running back A is the lead horse, and A, and then B, C, and D, you're just backing him up. So when he comes out to rest, B is up next, and if B gets hurt or gets tired, C goes in. And then if A is fresh again, A goes back in. So then that takes the pressure off the players saying, oh man, we got to split carries. I don't know. That's the way I've done it in the past at the high school level when I coached running backs. And I've seen other teams do that as well. You got to have that lead horse. Then there's no discrepancy and no pressure or anxiety between the other running backs that's in that rotation.
Do you think, talking about the younger players and back and talking about freshmen and sophomores and how they might mentally approach the carries they get or don't get versus an older player or someone who's the lead dog, so to speak, do you think it's different than it used to be with the transfer portal, with NIL, with guys wanting to come in and wanting to play right away? Like, you don't even hear of many guys redshirting anymore. Do you think that attitude's a little bit different for young guys, freshmen coming into college now than it once was?
100% different, because there's a different landscape. Like you just mentioned, you have transfer portal, you have NIL, you have 2 things that were not a part of our even mindset as players during our time, your time, and my time. So it wasn't even something that it was a thought like, oh man, I could get an NIL deal, just because of my playing time or whatever, how they hand them out to players. Or I could go in the transfer portal after my freshman year if it's not working out here, and go get another opportunity somewhere else. Like, that didn't cross our mind. It was either you redshirt, or you sit your time on the bench, or you become the starter. One of those 3 options. Mm-hmm. That was our options.
Yep.
And so, yes, 100% the mindset is different, because you have options. And when I say having options sometimes is good, and sometimes it's kind of that gray area, for college athletes, because they don't really know where to go, because some of them are really young. They're coming straight out of high school, and they don't understand the thought process that goes into. I mean, they only understand, okay, I just got a scholarship from Nebraska or LSU or wherever, and now I'm set. But then they get there, and then something doesn't work out, and now it's like, okay, year 2, I got option to go transfer portal, or I got this NI deal that might keep me here because I can make $100,000 doing this now. So we didn't have those things, and I think sometimes a player that doesn't have the education and doesn't quite understand the thought process, they could get lost in the shuffle and end up making a wrong decision, or just a decision that might throw their path to graduating or their path to the league, off a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes having options, like you said, is good. Sometimes it's a double-edged sword. So it goes a little bit both ways. Another question for you, and we kind of have an idea. Matt Rule's kind of alluded to what they're going to do on offense a little bit. We know more tight ends, more fullbacks. He wants to win at the line of scrimmage. He wants to be physical. He wants to run the ball. Okay, all things that are like Christmas frickin' Day to Husker fans' ears, okay? But here's my question to you. Do you think, like, if you had a say in this, all right, hypothetically, let's say you had a say in this, should Nebraska bring back a little bit more of an option style of football as well?
I say it's already there, and yeah, I would love to see the I formation and come out of there in the speed option or a triple option or even a wing T. But I've seen offenses. I haven't really seen. I got to look back and see if Matt Rule has done this with the RPO, because I know he ran it at Baylor. But with the RPO, you can still have a read option offense that then gives a problem to defensive ends, outside linebackers that got to make a decision. Are we going to hit the quarterback, or are we going to hit the run back that just did an orbit motion behind the quarterback, and now he's coming around, and it's basically an option set. It's an option situation. So if you can at least set it up that way, it doesn't have it even for me. It doesn't even have to be the traditional sense of I formation. But if you I just want to see it to where eventually you have a quarterback that has the ball, and you got a running back that's to his left that he could pitch it on a decision on what the linebacker does on that end man on the line of fit, not the linebacker, but whoever that end man on the line of scrimmage is, then you got a problem, and then you could create success off that.
All right, we're going back to 1997. Nebraska gets the chance to play Michigan. Who wins the game and what's the score?
Oh, that's easy. We do. We destroy them. You know,
All right.
we're gonna beat them up pretty bad. Kind of like we beat up Tennessee. Because not one. I'm not even. I mean, we're gonna put on points. That's the offense. But our defense would have been, you know, in that backfield. What they had, Brian Greasy, great guy. I met him a few times. I know Charles Wilson was on the defensive side, and a teammate of mine. We've had several conversations. That's why I say one will win. We'll probably put up 400 yards on the ground like we usually do. Because Michigan, even though they had a really good defense with Charles Wilson and a few other guys that went to the league and actually were All-Americans, but we were built to run for 4 quarters, and they would not have stand. I say they didn't have the manpower to do that because our rotations of running backs and myself and linemen, you know, we would have just, you know, wore people out like we usually did because that's what we did Tennessee, even though they were the SEC champs, and we were able to go down there, bludgeon them with the run. Eventually, you know, it surpassed because in the first half we didn't have a whole lot of yards, but second half, myself, Joe McAvickle, Khalil Buckhalter, Scott Frost did our job to run the ball like we usually did, and you know, I came out with 206, and I think Scotty had a little bit over. Maybe he had probably anywhere from 50 to 100 yards, and I know Khalil Buckhalter, as a freshman, he had, you know, 50, 60 yards rushing, I think a touchdown as well. So a combination of us 3 guys running the ball, a few passes here and there, we would have dominated. I would say the score would have been, let's keep it moderate around, 35-10 for Michigan.
My favorite part of that is you're keeping it moderate. I love that. All right. All right, looking ahead quickly to next year. All right. What is your record prediction? Like, what's the win-loss record going to be for Nebraska?
Ooh, man. I'm going to roughly say, I'm going to give them 8. I say 8 and 4, 8 and 5. So
right.
1 or 2 games above 500.
Last question I got for you. You got any behind-the-scenes stories from your playing days at Nebraska that you'd be comfortable sharing with the fine folks at home?
Yeah. Oh, actually, I just told this one, so it's fresh on my brain. Just talking about the running back room, kind of like how goofballs we were when we were in that room together with Coach Solich. We would mess around like little kids before he walked in the room. But I remember one instance, this was actually during practice, my freshman year, and it was Oklahoma week. And so it was the first Oklahoma experience week of my career. And so it was an intense week. It was a lot of hard hitting in that practice. And I remember it was Wednesday or Tuesday. It was Wednesday's practice. And I got a hip pointer right halfway through my middle part of practice. I got a hip pointer. So they you know, Dope took me out and said, hey, just put some ice on it. You're done for today. We got to get you ready for Saturday's game. And so I did. I'm sitting there in the back, and it's me, Lawrence, Clinton, Damon, Jay, Steve Raymond, and a few other guys, McAvickle, Brian Schuster. We're just sitting back watching 9-on-7 happen. And then Damon, all of a sudden, this comes out of nobody was talking for at least 2 to 3 minutes. We didn't say a word. We just watching the plays, getting a mental rep. And he comes out of the blue and says to all the running backs, I got to be the best looking running back in my pads. And I'm like, I kind of just turn my head and look at him like, did he just say what I thought he said? And Lawrence, he's like, basically shut up. He said some other words, but basically shut up, David. Please don't talk. That was the dumbest thing I've ever heard, you know. And then we went back to watching 9-on-7, watching getting our mental reps in. But we were just shaking our heads for about, I say, for the rest of practice and then into watching film.
That's awesome. The most random things that happen, you know, just little stuff like that can be so amusing. All right, man. That's awesome. Well, I appreciate your time.
Hey, thank you, Adam. Thanks for having me. I say I'll catch you next time.
All right. Till next time, Husker Nation, go big red, and always remember, throw the bud. If you're a diesel mechanic, CDL driver, or concrete finisher looking for work in the Omaha metro area, DPS Construction is the employer for you. If you're a general contractor, building owner, or property manager looking for concrete repair or work done in the Omaha metro area, such as street paving, building floors, and parking lots, check out dpsconstruction.net.